assistant and 4 as a head coach, and then came here. So it was, I did get my Stanley Cup ring from the 2018 team, which was nice. I think there was 14 players on that team that raised the cup that night. So as a developmental league and a developmental coach, certainly as much as winning is important at the AHL level. And I had the privilege of winning the Calder Cup back in 2010 as the assistant in Hershey, and unfortunately lost in the finals in 2016 as a head coach. So experienced a little bit of it all at the AHL level in terms of being able to win or at least be part of a winning team, and then also seeing some guys move on. And the same thing has taken place in the last couple of years with the B-Sens and the big club. So that's just a little bit about my background. I am from the Maritimes. Ended up coming to Toronto at 16 and ended up going to University of Toronto and got my degree there, and then ended up in the States and all over the map as a minor hockey league player from Sweden to Mississippi. So I've been all over the place, quite frankly. So enough about me, but I think it's always important that you know the background of the guy that's giving the presentation. So, you know, I talked to Jeff quite a bit, 2 or 3 times about tonight, and thought long and hard about it over the last 2-3 weeks on what to present. And, you know, instead of, I didn't really think that, you know, just beating up systems and everybody's got their own feel for systems and always want to learn about it. But I thought it'd be important to talk about the identity of you as a head coach and your staff. And the why I picked this topic was, you know, I've been through some interviews at the AHL level and at the NHL level. So, you know, when you're going for interviews, you get a lot of time to talk about what you think the components are that make up a good head coach, and ultimately your staff, because truly your staff is an extension of you, the head coach. So in most cases, I'm sure you guys are all the same, you usually bring in the people that you can trust. And, you know, it's no different at the pro level if you can have the say. So, so what I did was just build this in terms of what the importance are, and we'll go through it and give you some ideas of, you know, what some players have said and some of the things that I think are crucial to be a good staff here. So coaching staff identity, and this is something I present to my coaching staff quite frankly, whether it's in the interview process of bringing guys in or at the beginning of the season, because as much as you want the players on board, you need the coaching staff on board in terms of what you're looking for. So these are the 4 components that I think are crucial to a coaching staff. You know, and it's no different whether you're coaching U14, U18, you need to be a teacher. You know, to me, that's probably the biggest thing for us and you guys as well. Being a listener, you know, I think that's a tough one for us all because we have our own ideas. But the one thing I've learned over the years is being a good listener is crucial, especially with the player of today and the knowledge that they bring, maybe compared to 20 years ago. Communication is huge. You hear it all the time, but this, you know, it's just critical that you and your staff are communicating with the players, and then structured. You know, I talk a lot to our staff about, you know, these major junior programs that send us ultimately players, right? Because they are feeders for the American League. You know, you talk about guys graduating from junior to the NHL, but most of them, if they, you know, are going to play in the NHL, have to go through the American League. And the one thing that really bothers me, quite frankly, is you can tell the players that are well coached at the junior level when they come here. And whether they have winning programs or losing programs, to me, just because someone's winning at the major junior level doesn't mean that the player's coming in with detail and structure. And that's something I've learned quite a bit here over the last 10 years of dealing with these, you know, 18, 19-year-olds graduating to the American League. is just how much structure and detail they come into. So from our perspective, we want to provide as much structure as possible, and that goes with systematic play and being able to execute in practice. So those are really the four things that we focus on as a staff, and ultimately I think are important as a head coach. In terms of being a teacher, just an example of that is Cody Golubov, who I coached 2 years ago, and then he spent the year last year up with the big club with the Sens, and ultimately with Detroit as he was waived later in the year. But this was a quote from him. Every morning I was excited to come to the rink to learn something new. So that's what it's about, right? You're trying to, if you can get these guys to improve 1%, you need to be a good teacher. And that's just an example of a veteran player. And we've brought him back. He's actually with us again this year. So obviously I think we need to feel good, and me ultimately as a head coach has to feel good that he was interested in coming back here based on what we're doing with our guys. So the teaching philosophy, the league is, the AHL is continuing to get younger. It's unreal now. And you can say the same about the NHL. I'm sure you guys follow enough of the NHL to hear about how much younger the league is getting, and, how much teaching has to be done even at the NHL level now. And for us as coaches, you have to stay up with the new concepts and be innovative. I remember a couple of years ago, when small area games became a big thing. And that's something that we added as a coaching staff to our repertoire. And now we do it all the time, and not every coach believes in it. Not every coach does it, but it's something we've added to the mix over the last couple of years. So just, that's just one example of something we've added, or my staff and I. But that's what you need to do in terms of just staying up with the knowledge that these kids bring now. And again, for us, the focus is to make each player better every day. And I know for you guys, maybe you're not on the ice every day with the players. So sometimes it's maybe limited with how much you can improve because you're not on the ice every day. But, we broke it down into 5 categories. One is skill development, which as you guys all know, the young kids love the tools nowadays. 15 years ago, you couldn't even be lucky to get a tire on the ice. And now they've got all these gadgets. And we have them here too, because the young player of today loves that. We do a lot of purposeful and detailed team video here. We're huge on that. Individual video, I'm very lucky. I've got 2 assistants and a full-time video coach and a goalie coach. So, the staffs are different sizes, but I do believe that individual video has come a long way here in the last probably 5 to 7 years. And we've done quite a bit of it, and a lot more of it maybe than when I got into the American League 10 years ago. So if that's something you can add to to the mix, if it's possible, I do think the kids can learn from individual video. Our practices, I love our practices to be up tempo and game situation. Do we do skill development? Absolutely. But you have to have part of the practice structured towards how you want to play. And the only way to do that is incorporate that into your practice from a systematic perspective. And like I say, the 5th thing, small area games, I've already mentioned it. For example, we start almost every practice with a small area game. To me, it gets the team completely engaged in the practice right away. And there's a little bit of compete, gets the engine going for the practice for however long you want to go. And sometimes we finish with a small area game. I certainly recommend it for anybody that has smaller numbers on the ice. I was just telling Jeff prior to coming on with you guys about when we transitioned from Sens camp on January 13th, we only had 12 skaters and 2 goalies. And we went like that for about 2 weeks. And that's not easy, right? We didn't even have enough to run line rushes or any 5-on-5 play. And there was no systematic play. We didn't have enough bodies. We only had 8 forwards and 4D. But we did a lot of one-on-one battles. We did a lot of skill development. and we focused on small area games, whether it was 2-on-2, 1-on-1. And as our numbers increased, some of our small area games went to 3-on-3. But, we use probably 8 to 10 small area games, and we just keep rotating. Today we went and we did a 2-on-2, what I call a 2-on-2 point activator. Just didn't feel we got to the blue paint enough on the weekend, and we weren't winning enough races, so that was a small area game practice today for 6 minutes, which focused on winning races, getting to the blue paint. So those are the type of things that you can add to your practice. And that's how I try and structure the practice, based on the games that we just played, in terms of what we need to do to get better. And that way, small area games to me is a huge, huge part of it. So in terms of being a listener with your players, I know you guys are, different ages. It's no different from here. Like, Nick Paul spent 6 years as, in the pros trying to make it. And, he came under my wing 2 years ago. And, obviously he's turned to an NHLer. He's got a nice new contract, and he's playing some valuable minutes up with Ottawa. And he's the type of guy that, they almost gave up on him 2 years ago. When I first came to the organization, he was the type of player that was, thinking he was going to have to go to another organization. He was part of the Spezza trade. So that's how far back Nick went in terms of becoming part of the organization. So because Spezza's been gone quite a while now. So, but, he said, how you listened during all of our one-on-one meetings showed me you were valued and respected as a person, as well as my point of view. As a result, you gained trust, credibility, and loyalty from me as the rest of the team. So, that's what you have to do as coaches, is you have to listen to your players. And I do a lot of one-on-one meetings, in terms of trying to find out what makes them, what really makes them tick and what motivates them. And, Nick Paul, obviously I was able to get to Nick Paul because, now he's an NHLer. So that's important. So if you can get to your players or get them to improve by being a good listener, I certainly think that's an important concept. And listening skills. So what is listening skills? Well, we have an open door policy here, and we try and meet with at least 2 players each day. Sometimes it's not me, right? Sometimes it's the assistants, or I may tell David Bell, hey, you need to have a little chat with Jonathan Aspero after the weekend. He wasn't very sharp. And so it doesn't always have to come from the head coach. It certainly can come through the head coach to the assistants. And I think as a head coach, you've got to distinguish when you need to meet with a particular player. But we do a lot, today, for example, we had multiple players here in the coach's office meeting with the assistants, and we tried to touch on everybody over the course of the week. It's impossible whether your group is 16, 18 players. We have 27 players here. So, managing 27 players is not easy. So one thing I got from Barry Trotz was the coach in Washington when I was the head coach in Hershey, was establishing a strong leadership group. And that was more than just the captain and assistants. He always liked to have a group of 5 to 7 players, and not necessarily had to wear letters. And I love the idea when he talked to me about it back in, when I first came to Hershey as the head coach. And I've done it ever since. I've through the staff, we've recognized, about 6 guys, and, everything goes through them. They are the extension of the coaching staff in terms of giving us feedback, getting the temperature of the locker room. And, by doing 5 or 6 players, you get, it's by numbers, right? It's an increase of the numbers of what you're selling, and they're buying into it. So if you're carrying 20 players and you've got a leadership group of 6 on top of your coaches, you're getting the buy-in factor, and that's helps. The other thing that I'm huge on, guys, is meeting with the coaching staff every morning. It may be going over video, but at least going through the practice. I think it's important that the team knows that you're organized and ready to go. And how do you do that? Well, we don't come flying in here on 2 wheels. And I know you guys, it's not your full-time job as coaches, But, to find time to meet with your coaching staff to go over practice or what the plan is, I think it goes a long way in showing the players that you're well organized and you guys know what you're doing, and they certainly appreciate that. And another example of that for us was, now again, different scenarios, but for us is like, one thing I told my assistants when we hired them was, there's nothing wrong with going to have lunch with the players. The players nowadays, it's not like it used to be where the coaches never even talk to the players. You need to get to know them. You need to get their personalities. You got to ask them about their girlfriends and their wives, or what movie they've seen, or what they're doing on their, what video game they're playing, quite frankly. And that is something that I found that our staff got much better at last year. And I'm just using Ottawa, Bellville in specifics. Our first year, I didn't think we did enough of that as a group, and it can't always be the head coach, but certainly the assistants can do that. And last year, brought in 2 new assistant coaches, and I thought they did a really good job of mingling with the players and finding out more about each guy. Communicator, this is Nate Schmidt. I coached him in Hershey. He's now with Vegas. Actually, my bad, he's now with Vancouver, as he was traded here in the off season. But, that was just a quote from him, appreciated the honesty, and you always knew where you stood. So, and he respected that. And I think you guys need to be the same. I know we are. We don't coach with any gray. I think you got to be honest with the players in terms of where they stand, positive or negative. And that way, you can get more out of them in terms of communicating the message on a game-to-game basis or practice, depending on your situation. So, in terms of communication skills, what are we talking about here? Well, you got to use the same language and vocabulary. I mean, we actually have a coaching vocabulary that that I sent to the players, or I should say the coaching staff, in terms of how we want to terminology, certain, whether it's an F3 or, whether it's an F3 bumper or, hunt, seek on the forecheck, whatever terms you guys want. But, you want to be using the same terminology with the coaches as the players. And that way they start, because players, as the younger they are, the less they process in terms of their hockey knowledge or their hockey IQ. So if you can have certain words, they'll pick up on that more than essays and, pages of information. It's like specific cues of words. And I think it's important, again, to engage each player every day. And I mentioned that earlier in terms of touch and base with each player. And even if it means skating around the ice, before you blow the whistle, the assistants and yourself should be trying to, spend 30 seconds with each guy, just seeing how they're doing with their day or their game. Let players know where they stand. And also, I think as coaches, we have to understand that our decisions affect each player in a different way, and I have to treat Logan Brown much different than Hubert Labrie. Logan Brown, for example, is a guy that, when I see that he's struggling or things aren't right, I can see it in his body language. I know I have to meet one-on-one with him. I can't call him out in front of his teammates, or it's got to be a situation where him and I sit down and talk about it, where maybe Hubert Labrie, an older guy that, I can say something in a video session where he knows, that I'm not trying to center him out. I'm just trying to make the team better with a particular correction. So that's by getting to know each guy's personality. And then, address issues before they spiral. And to me, that goes back to the coaching staff and the leadership group. And the more leaders you have, the more you're going to find out what's going on inside your room, right? Because it's going to leak back to you, whether it's from a player or a coach. You will find out, and then you can put the fire out before it gets to a situation where it's not good. And that's why I heavily recommend that you form a leadership group within your team. The next thing we do here is what we call player foundation keys. I do believe this helps in not only distinguishing how they need to play from a team perspective, but individually. And here's Josh Norris in Ottawa. Josh was a first rounder by San Jose. You know, he was one of the big acquisitions in the Carlson trade a couple of years ago. And Josh played for us last year and was fantastic. And, you know, obviously he's made the jump with 1 year. But we do this with all our players. This is probably my 6th season doing this. And I actually got it from Todd Reardon, who did it in Pittsburgh. So as you guys know, we always steal information. But in working with Todd, he was with the Caps for a number of years. And obviously we'd go to developmental camps and NHL camps, and we'd always talk hockey. And they did this in Pittsburgh. And he showed me Crosby and Letang's foundation keys. And I thought it was an excellent idea. It's a great way to keep your players accountable, both individually and from a team perspective. So we formed them in Hershey when I was the head coach, and I brought them to Bellville. And obviously every player is different. What we do is we're going to do this next week with this year's team. We're going to play tomorrow night and then Friday. And then we have an 11-day break between games. And we're going to sit down individually with each player for about 15 minutes. And they're going to know when their meeting is, because I want them to share with us, right, what they think their strengths and weaknesses are. And then we can talk about it. And these are just an example of Josh Norris's, where we thought, you know, where he is going to have to succeed from a team perspective and individually. And for example, with faceoffs, you know, I thought he should be 52 or better. That was what I had in mind when he came in. He said, you know what, Troy, I want to shoot for 55%, you know? And so these are the little things that you can get out of your players and establish in foundation keys. It keeps them honest. It's a great way to evaluate players. We evaluate players on a 1 to 5 basis, and this is part of it, right? You know, if he's 42% on the faceoffs and his stick detail isn't good, or he's not creating scoring chances chances are he's not going to have a good ranking. So maybe he gets a ranking of 2 to 5 that goes to management in Ottawa. But I love this. I think you can do it at any level. You can maybe dumb it down, you know, in the lower levels, but certainly you maybe not need as many as these are. But I think it's a great way to keep your team honest and the player itself in terms of ways to improve. I think we have one more for you. That's Jonathan Aspro was a defenseman last year, came out of the Quebec Major Junior. He was captain of the Moncton Wildcats, came in, signed an AHL, ECHL two-way. And by the end of the year, he had signed an NHL deal. And you know, retrievals, I'll just go over this briefly, but he's a defenseman. So retrievals, gap, stick detail, scoring chances against, you know, to me, those are just staples for a defenseman. Whether it's Jonathan or another one. But then we go to the right side of the the slide, and these are his strengths, right? And he was part of that. So if he's not good on the PK, or if he's not winning his one-on-one battles, or if he's not closing fast in D zone, chances are he's not having a great game. So not only a great way for him to evaluate himself, great way as coaches to evaluate himself. And structure. This is Stefan Elliott, just a quote from him 2 years ago. I never played for a more prepared and detailed staff. I felt great about his quote in our year-end meeting, only because he's a veteran guy that has played for a number of staffs over the years, NHL and American League. And I thought that was a great compliment for us on how we were, you know, running our structure. So structure and organized, to me, it starts on the ice. You know, with your practices. I said teaching in morning meetings. If you guys are meeting with your team prior to practice, if you got some time, you can do a lot of teaching through video. You can even send it to their phones nowadays. Not quite sure the setups you guys got, but I know we use our meetings with video. We did a session this morning going over D-zone coverage and breakouts. I thought those were two concepts that we were not very good at in Montreal on the weekend, and we incorporated that in the practices. So what we did was the video this morning, it was part of the practice. So same thing, you know, let's say tomorrow, if we decide to do O-zone play and D-zone entries as a video package, that will be incorporated in our practice that day or that night. And then you got communicating how and why we're working on a certain element. That's what the meeting is about, right? We show the video. This is what we need to get better at. These are the areas we're going to focus on in practice. And you show them on the video, and then you go out and practice. And if there's a way to do that, I certainly recommend it. And then that way it gets applied in the practices, and hopefully over time, you know, I'm hoping tomorrow night, guys, that we see a little bit of improvement in D-zone coverage. We had a lot of young guys, a lot of breakdowns over the weekends, obviously with the scores. We were not good enough defensively. That's why we attacked it today. I didn't think we had enough support on the breakouts. And I didn't like the fact that we were coming up the strong side. We're a weak side movement team on breakouts. We focused on that today. I hope there's an improvement in those two areas tomorrow night. And that's how we kind of go about our business in terms of incorporating it in practices. And then hopefully we see it in the games. And if we do, then we'll show it saying, hey, this is the improvement we showed later in the week. Player development. This is Drake Batherson. Just a quote from him. Coached him for 2 years. He's up in Ottawa this year. Has made great strides. You know, he's one of the real good young players and is going to be one of the core guys moving forward as Ottawa transitions into a really good team. And he just said, I found transitioning from junior to pro was a lot easier than I thought it would be, simply because of the time and effort put in by our coaching staff to make me a better player. And to me, that's what it's about, player development for us. Much like you guys, you know, you're dealing with 14, 15, 16, 18-year-olds. It's about player development. It's about trying to get these kids to the next level. And that's what we did with Drake. And he's made the transition pretty well here in year 3 of his pro career. So one thing I did when I went into Hershey was develop a skills day. And, you know, I'm not sure what you guys do from a skills perspective, how much ice time you have, but we do it quite a bit, you know, before practice and after practice, where we're able to get 1 to 5 players and work on their specific needs. Or, you know what, maybe on Monday night, you know, it's just, or Monday morning, it's straight skills practice where we do 45 minutes of skills. You know, it can't always be 5-on-5 systematic play. It has to be skill development incorporated into your practices. And that's one thing that's really changed over the years. I remember when I first got into coaching, you know, there was hardly any skill development. And over the years, that's certainly something that's been more emphasized. And we do it as well on stuff as I call skills day. There's nothing wrong on a Wednesday morning or Wednesday night, you know, just putting a skills practice together, whether it's the D at one end, forwards, or a split. You know, I know I worked with the U16 team, the Quinny Red Devils, from end of September to early December. And, you know, we did a lot of skills, and then we do small area games, just throwing something different at the players to make their brain work a little bit different with it, not all systematic play, because as you guys know, you need to have systems or you won't win any hockey games 5-on-5 unless you have tremendous amount of skill. And even that, at the end of the day, you've got to have some type of structure to make it work and win games. And ultimately, as you guys know, winning's a lot more fun than losing. And that has to be part of player development. You know, you got to incorporate winning into that mentality. Here's just a couple examples of a couple skill drills. This is a breakout drill that we do. We call it net bumps and wall bumps. This is what I call a net bump. And that's just a skill we work on. You know, that little 10-foot, 6 to 8, 10-foot dink, you know, you go back, that's a skill right there. You know, those are two that are very well done there. You know, you make the players gap up, shoulder check, you know, and work on their bumps. You know, that's a weak side movement. We do a lot of weak side movement here, but you can do it as what we call a wall bump. And that's a reverse. You know, most coaches call it a reverse. We call it a wall bump, but that's just a skill drill that you can work on just those small little skill plays. It doesn't look like much, but again, it just helps the players develop that. Here's one for the D. We talk a lot about making the net bigger. So this is our D coach working the defense here, and that cone coming across, and they're trying to hit the, if you go back to that, Freddie, so it's almost the net's a look. We tell them it's the net is a broom ball net. If you guys all know what broom ball is here in Canada, think about, we tell the D, think about the drill being a broom ball net where you're trying to make the net bigger because you're hoping the bodies are in and you're trying to hit a stick. So this is just a skill drill where there's a body coming across or a stick coming across, and the D is working on trying to find that cone with the puck. Simple drill, but something that we did with our players. Here's another one with stick detail. Just stick on puck. This is a drill on working on stick detail. We're huge on stick on puck team here. And that was just a drill that our D coach came up with, and then finish it off with a shot and a little deception there. Just small little things that you can work on. The next thing, guys, just team identity. And for me, you've got to form some type of team identity and how you want to play. And I think you need to do that early in the season. And how do you want to do it? Well, it all comes down to your details and structure. I said to our guys this morning, for example, that, last year we led the league in scoring. We were top 5 in the analytics in all categories from an offensive perspective last year. But you know what? We weren't good enough defensively on the weekend to have the puck enough to even remotely try some of these offensive zone concepts that we talked about earlier last week. So the foundation is we have to play better defensively to have the puck more, and then we can go play fast and introduce our offensive concepts. I mean, if anybody looked at my team stats over the years, we've been a very, very good offensive team at the AHL level. But it still has to start. You need the puck. So that was our message today, that our team identity, we just started, right? We're 2 games in. So we're still basing that team identity, but we're hounding that point this morning, 2 games into the season, about how we need to play and forming and building our team identity. So for me personally, guys, we all have mentors. We all have visions of how we want our team to play, and we all get it from different people. For me, the defensive habits and structure I got was from Barry Trotz, and obviously he's had an unbelievable NHL career, won the Stanley Cup in 2018, but his defensive, his ability to make his team play defense and the structure he brought, I thought was excellent. Todd Reardon, who was the D coach at the time, associate head coach, ended up being the head coach actually after Trotz left for New York. Todd brought a lot from Pittsburgh, and I learned a lot from him as well. Offensive concepts, Scotty Murray was my goalie coach. I actually worked in Sudbury. He's from Waterloo, but he was working for the Sudbury Wolves, and he met his wife up in Sudbury. He ended up in Hershey as our goalie coach. He's now the Washington Capitals goalie coach. And I loved his philosophy from an offensive perspective. And he got a lot of it from Steve Elliott, who works for the Rangers. And we established that in Hershey, and I brought that to Bellville. And my coaches believe in it. My video coach is heavily involved with it. And that was just something that is the identity of our team, right? And we've talked about those concepts. Over my coaching career, guys, this is my 16th year. Obviously had a lot of good mentors over the year. Mark Reeds, who was with the late Mark Reeds, who was in Ottawa briefly as well. Phenomenal coach I played for. Bruce Boudreau, I thought his philosophy in terms of bringing the team together and having that culture of winning and motivation was as good as it gets. And obviously he's not in the NHL right now, but his winning percentage, I think, is still .650 in regular season over a 10-year head coaching career. So he's done a lot of good things, but those are just guys that I've looked up to and brought my philosophy. And you guys have to do the same, right? You have to bring it to your team. And where are you getting it? You may have your own ideas, but let's face it, we're all getting it from somewhere. And those are just a couple examples from my side of things. So here's an example, guys, of a practice. We always post this. And when I talk about themes, just go back to that, Freddie. So when the players come in, maybe we do video, maybe we don't on a particular day, but there's always a theme. So this particular day, and I'm using October 15th of last year's practice, the theme was face-offs. We're going to touch on track. We're going to touch on ozone entries, special teams, and we're going to play a small area game. So that was a big day, right? October 15th. It might have been a Monday or Tuesday, and maybe we didn't play till Friday, right? So we obviously gear our practice towards the week in terms of when are you playing games, right? If you're only playing on weekends, you can build your practice earlier in the week and make it longer. At least we do at the pro level. And so that was the theme. So going into the practice, when we were going over the drills, and this is an example, you can do this on Coach Them or Hockey Share. We do Hockey Share here, but they're very, very similar. And, I usually go over the first 4 drills, so I don't have to go over the board. So the first 20 minutes, you can play with a little bit of pace if your team has enough hockey IQ to comprehend the drills. And that way you spend less time at the board and more time just pushing the pace, specifically early. I mean, you have to give them water breaks, and guys, and you have to get to the board at some point because they just, even our guys at the pro level, they can't take 6 or 7 drills in their head. Now, certainly as you build your practice over the course of the season and your drills become repetitive, certainly, hopefully they remember the drills as you go. I think last year we used something like 82 drills or the high 70s. I mean, that's a lot of drills, right? Every coach is different. I like a lot of drills. I like to, change it up quite a bit. I'm always sending Freddie drills to put into Hockey Share. I may have seen it on, Instagram or somewhere. Geez, that's a great drill for 2-on-1, or that's a great small area game. And we add it, right? So some coaches only use 20, 25 drills. It just depends on your philosophy. I like to use a lot, but this is just an example of a practice that we would go over, a face-off warm-up. I'm big into face-offs. So we'd run the face-off plays to warm the goalies up and get some structure and some execution on face-off plays. What else we got, Freddie? Nashville 6-shot. This was a drill, and I could send these over to Jeff at some point. Freddie's got quite the database that we've built. I'm willing, I can share any drills you guys want in any particular area. This was a Barry Trotz drill that I stole from him at Caps Camp called the Nashville 6-shot. What else we got, Freddie? Washington track, to work on our tracking. Good pace drill. We're going to probably introduce this to our group here after we play these 2 games next week. But all these drills are in my database that we can certainly share moving forward. 2-on-2 long and short. This is one of my favorites. We did it today. Unbelievable pace drill. You have to have 60 and probably, I think you could 10 forwards. I did it with the U16 team. And I think we were running with 10 forwards, 60 on some nights, max of 12 and 6. Great pace drill here for the D to work on gaps, forwards to work on splitting the D and try to put pucks to space instead of carrying it in. Talking to the forwards about, hey, if they don't have gap, take the line. Possession versus pursuit. I must use that expression maybe 1,000 times over a course of an 8-month season. I don't coach like Torts where it's a complete forecheck game. Even DJ Smith, he's a heavy forechecking coach. I believe in the forecheck, but also want our guys to be able to be creative at the blue line. But it's possession versus pursuit based on the gap. And that's something we work on. And this is why that's one of my favorite drills. And we did that this morning. San Jose, 3-on-2 low, 3-on-2 back check or track. Another great drill. All you need is 3 lines, 9 forwards, 6D. Hopefully you have 4 lines, but you work a little bit of 3-on-2 below the tops of circles to create a little offensive chance. You have a line waiting, and so you're getting some offense in a small area. You're getting a 3-on-2 track, and then you can make it into a 5-on-5. Unbelievable drill. This is a Pete DeBoer drill. That's why it's called San Jose when he coached there. But another real good drill for, that incorporates a lot of what we're looking to do here on the offensive perspective, working on our gap and our 5-on-5. Gretzky 2-on-2 small area game. Again, I have probably 10, 12 small area games in our hockey share program. This is just using the back of the net. This is a real simplistic one that everybody's probably heard of, but it's a 2-on-2 with the activator behind the net. And obviously we all know that Gretzky was really good at using the back of the net. So the change of possession has to be with the Gretzky activator behind the net. But again, something we've used quite a bit in the small area game. Another slide we use here, just depending on your season, set weekly goals. If you're playing a 3-game week or 2-game week, home or away, you can set your goals. Now, this slide is pretty detailed, guys, in terms of points of emphasis and the relevant stats, but we have a lot of analytics. But you know what? You can set weekly goals so your team is not worrying about 2 weeks from now or worrying about last week. Let's set specific goals. And most teams, even in the youth programs or, in normal seasons, are playing 3 games a week. So set your goals, let's shoot for 4 or 6. If you get 5, you get 6. Hopefully you can reward your team. If you get 3, then you got to get better. If you get anything under 4, then you get things to work on and something to talk about going into the following week. But it's something I think that you can really incorporate in your team as goal setting within the week. And not so much the month or the year. And then the players can just focus on the weekend, or if you're playing, a midweek game. But it's unreal, boys, how the points pile up when you start getting 4 to 6 every week and you play a, 20-week season or 18-week season. Set pieces and face-offs. This is something we added to the I'm big on face-offs and set pieces, guys, and I found over the last couple of years that guys want to see it. So we post this. We talk about control breakout, we talk about face-off, we talk about control forecheck, and we get a little sophisticated in terms of changing it on a game-to-game basis. But we print this off, and so the guys have a little bit of a structured idea. Okay, what are we doing on the face-off loss tonight? Well, it's 2-3 aggressive center on center. So instead of maybe throwing a ton of video at them on a game day, you put this up on the wall, and hopefully the guys that are detailed enough to read this, they understand what we're doing on our set pieces and face-offs. Keys to the game. You can have this written down on your game card. We put it on a slide. Freddie posts this. We also go over it on the video. It's a little tougher this year because we're not allowed meetings at the rink. Everything's supposed to be virtual now because of the COVID situation. But this presentation is more about in a normal year, guys. And I always pick 4 keys to the game based on the opposition and based on what we need to do to be successful as a team. At the end of the day, we're always worried what the other team is doing, but the total focus for us is what are we doing to be successful and what do we need to do? So this particular game last year, February 14th, I felt that track transition, neutral zone forecheck, OZP, and special teams were the 4 keys to us being successful winning the hockey game that night. And, I touch on all 4. I don't beat it up for 10 minutes, just quick points on what we felt. And I stick to 4 points just because the information, you can't give them too much information going into the game, but I stick to 4 personally. But everybody, I worked with a guy a few years ago that always liked 5 keys, and I felt it was too much. Sometimes it's 3, right? Some coaches like less. That's just a personal preference. I pick 4. Post-game analysis, guys, we talk about it every night, post-game in terms of what we did right. I call it positive takeaways. What did we struggle at? Quite frankly, last weekend, we struggled at a lot of things. And then what do we make for adjustments? We play Laval 10 times this year. So, you're playing the same team so much. What type of adjustments are we making this year? So far, obviously, we're spending a lot of time worrying about ourselves. We just got started. So we did talk about a couple positives this morning, but we struggled quite a bit in a lot of categories, and we talked about it this morning. We started by showing the teams, as I said earlier, breakouts, D-zone coverage, and special teams this morning. And tomorrow we're going to touch on a couple other things, forecheck, our gap control, and we just identified those things that we struggled on and touch on them in video and through our post-game analysis. I think this could be one of the last slides, guys. Game objectives. When I went to Hershey as the head coach, I brought Brian Helmer with me. He coached in Peterborough, and his staff did what they call game objectives. And I thought it was a fantastic idea. And you can make your own up based on your team's strengths and weaknesses, what's important to you as a staff. And the one thing I found about this, guys, is I've done it over the last 6 years, is usually when your team gets 6 or more, you're winning the hockey game. And if you're getting less than 5, you may win the hockey game, but chances are your goaltender's standing on his head. And that's going to happen, right? There are nights when your goalies is going to have to be the best player on the ice, and you're going to get your game objectives and see that you got 2 out of 8. And you know what? You won the game, so you move on and try and make your team better. But I can promise you, if you introduce something like this, any night that you got 6 or more, you're winning the game. You're not happy you lost the game, but there's a lot of areas of your game you're pretty happy with. And this is something I can send over to Jeff if, or Freddie can get over to you guys. If you want to take a look at ours, I'm not saying you have to use our 10 because, like I say, every coaching staff is different, but we just picked 10 things regarding our philosophy and what we believe in and what's important to us to be successful as a team. This was against Manitoba Moose last year. We won 5-4. In overtime, we got 8 out of 10. And the only 2 we didn't get was the face-offs, over 50%, and we didn't score the first goal of the game. Other than that, 8 for 10, we won the game. Pretty good night, right? But it's a real good way to evaluate your team. And this is just a pre-scout that we do. You know, obviously at the pro level, it gets pretty sophisticated at times, and Freddie does a great job of putting pre-scouts together for the team. And quite frankly, guys, not everybody reads this, right? Some players are more into this type of information. But my recommendation is, and I feel is, the more prepared you are, the better. And it's better to have it to not have it because you don't want your team to feel that the coaching staff is unprepared. So put the information up. If you have 10 guys looking at it, great. But at least you know the information is there for them. And there's no excuses because you've covered your butts as a staff in terms of all the preparation needed to beat your opponent. This is just another tool that we use, a pre-scout that we post, and gives the guys an idea of what they can see, what their tendencies are. We have sports logic through the Ottawa Senators, so we get all the analytics in terms of what the teams are doing on breakouts. Are they a heavy reverse team? Are they a heavy weak side team? What's their stats of protecting the house? I mean, so we've got all this information, which is great for us, but it's just a tool, right, to make you more prepared as a coaching staff. This is just a lineup, that we post. And again, it's just about details. It's about being prepared. So Lehigh Valley, Freddie, if we played Lehigh Valley last night, or if they played Hershey last night, and we're coming into Ottawa or Bellville tonight, Freddie's getting their lines from last night. We're posting it. Everybody knows who was in the lineup last night, and you can see, shots, goals against, PK. I don't think there's anything left unturned that we do not provide for our team. So there's no excuses from a preparation standpoint. It doesn't guarantee victory, but it certainly helps us as a staff. Even as far as the power play units, right? American League staff or teams change quite a bit. There's no league in the world that personnel changes more than the AHL because of the call-ups and injuries to the NHL team. And so dealing with this on a game-to-game basis is very difficult, specifically for our video coach, because there's so many transactions. But we do our best to provide the guys with the information from the last game. And this is just an example of the power play slide that we showed. PK coach gets a version of this, so he knows exactly who shoots what hand and their positions. And then, as I said earlier, guys, we have a terminology protocol. And this is just some of the catchphrases we use over the course of the year, and the players get familiar with it. This is something I put together when I hired my staff. They all got a copy of it, so they know some of the words that I like to use. Sometimes you bring in a new coach and there's a couple words that he's using from his days with maybe another organization or another program, and you put it in your repertoire, right? And just for example, there's a D dive there, right? Some other coaches have a different name for it. We call it a D dive here, or D cycles. So there's different terminology words. But I guess my point is we put it together, we define it, staff has it, we use those words, and then the players get to hear it over and over and over again over the course of normally an 8-month season. And just the last thing I'll leave you with, guys, is how important the equipment and trainers, skill coaches. Obviously, we're a much bigger staff here. We have a full-time strength and conditioning coach, 2 equipment guys, athletic trainer, Sean Donovan, Jesse Winchester, our skill coaches or our developmental coaches with the Sens come down. Donald was at practice today at the Sensplex. Sometimes both the guys are around. So it's important to communicate with all your staff members regarding injuries and, whether you're traveling by car or bus, we got to have everybody on the same page. I try and make these guys feel as important as the next guy, and use these guys as an information tool, right? My strength and conditioning coach, Jeremy Benoit, local kid, phenomenal job. He tracks all our practices, and he gives me an idea of the length of practice should be, how hard drills were. That drill was specifically hard for the D. This one was harder for the forwards. And then I can construct my practice based on that. Now, obviously, at the lower levels, that is tough to do because not everybody has a strength and conditioning coach, but it's a tool I have at my disposal as a head coach. So why not take advantage of it? So whatever you have as a coaching staff, you need to use it. And you want to create a positive environment to promote family atmosphere anchored by support and respect for all. And I think probably this slide, that is the most important thing to take out of that. Whether you got one assistant and one trainer, or you've got a staff of 7, 8, just depending on, how big your staff is and how big your program is. So that's the presentation, guys. I'll open it up for any questions. And like I said, any information I can pass along from drills, small area games, foundation keys, game objectives, things that can help make you guys better coaches or a better program overall. It's all about stealing information and getting better as coaches and improving your teams and your program.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for that, Troy. That was really good. Lots of great information for our coaches to take away tonight. We actually have Sean Donovan on the call tonight taking part. So one of our U18 coaches he's on listening. So I appreciate that. I haven't seen any chat or any questions come through the chat. So if you do have any questions, guys, feel free to send them in to me or let me know and we can unmute your mic and get that question out. But if you want to send any in. Got nothing coming in. Is there anyone that has a question before we get you out? Any questions? No, nothing coming through. So Troy, we'll get you out of there on that. If there is anything that you'd like for me to pass on to the coaches, feel free to send it to me and we can get out whatever you think would be relevant to our branch high performance coaches. So if there's anything that you think that would be relevant for them, send that on and we'll get it out. And if not, we'll get you out of there today. I appreciate it and good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Jeff. And, just stay in touch here. Again, if someone has a question after the fact or really liked something, whether it was a slider of some sorts, by all means, I can pass it along. But certainly appreciate you guys invite me in, and hopefully there was a little bit of information there that someone liked.
Well,